Hey, it's Zane. Welcome back. Hope you're having a great day. And today I want to talk about Bitcoin versus superannuation. Superannuation, your retirement account, and why it is that more and more people are making the switch from having their money, their retirement savings, stored in an underperforming industry super fund, and they're taking control of it via an SMSF, a self-managed super fund. And most people that I talk to, of course, they're doing this because they want to acquire Bitcoin in a really meaningful way. And for most people, their retirement savings, they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's something that is on the horizon. Most people don't pay too close attention to their superannuation until they get to a few years before retirement. But I really believe that the environment is changing now, and people are starting to get a little bit uneasy and nervous about the prospect of the future. And they know there's this pool of capital sitting over there that they haven't paid much attention to over the years, called superannuation. But now they're wanting to take control of it because they can see that it's not as secure and safe as we think, and it's certainly not keeping up with inflation the way that it needs to be doing in order to, I guess, sustain you comfortably in retirement. And so people are starting to come to their own conclusions around all of this. They can see, earlier this year we had a cyber attack. A number of major industry funds were the subject of a cyber attack. It was all over the news. I think it was in April. And when these things happen, people get very, very nervous. They think, well, hang on a minute. Do you mean to tell me that this pool of savings that I've spent 20, 30, 40 years acquiring and entrusting third-party institutions to manage for me, do you mean to tell me that there is a chance that one day I could wake up and those funds could no longer be there? And then we had, about 6-8 weeks ago, a major industry fund actually collapsed, and it took with it about 12,000 pending retirees' superannuation funds. And some of these people were in their 50s who had hundreds of thousands of dollars with this institution. And yes, there was a lot of nefarious activity that was going on at board level, a lot of mismanagement and misappropriation of people's funds, their superannuation. And that is a real problem, because if you have, allocated to super over decades, and then you wake up one day and you find out that the institution that was apparently meant to be taking care of those funds for you has disappeared, and you no longer have a zero balance in your super, what are you going to do to get that money back? And so people are starting to see that this stuff can happen, and they don't want to be a casualty in this. And so they're saying to themselves, well, there's two reasons why I need to do this. Number one, I'm not in control of it. And in order for me to move forward with confidence towards retirement, I want to be taking charge of my own retirement savings. The second reason is people can looking at their retirement funds now, their superannuation funds. They can see that inflation is out of control, and they're starting to question what it would mean, what the opportunity cost is of leaving their funds in an industry super fund that's performing at 8, 9, 10%. And then they take into account, the fees that are associated with the management of those funds. And they're starting to work out that if you have a pool of savings or investments that are only performing at 8 or 9% a year, you're basically selling out your financial future, because those funds are not even close to keeping up with real inflation. And historically, we've never had to worry about this because we had relative price stability. Inflation was never rampant in decades gone by the way that it is now. But because there's so much debt in the system now, the only way that governments and central banks around the world can stay solvent and to demonetize their debt and to fund their spending programs is to print money. And what this means is that anybody who has their savings parked in assets that are underperforming real inflation, the rate of currency debasement or monetary expansion, they're basically selling out their financial future. Their financial future is being slowly stolen from them. And so retirement accounts are not immune from this. In fact, retirement accounts, I would argue, are at most risk because, as I said earlier, they are out of sight, out of mind. And what this means is that most people aren't really paying attention to their superannuation because really they're not allocating to their super funds themselves for the most part. Most people have their employer allocating to superannuation. And so they don't really pay attention to it. And so really we're in this phase now where there's a lot of uneasiness, there's a lot of uncertainty. People are starting to say to themselves, I want to take control of my own superannuation. I believe I can do a better job than the industry super fund, these people in the financial institutions and the financial planning industry who are apparently good at managing money, but they can't even keep up with real inflation. And so it's up to you and I to say, well, we are the ones that are going to be the custodians of our own retirement savings. Now, why are people utilizing super to buy Bitcoin? Well, number one, because it is what I would refer to or call the lowest hanging fruit opportunity for most people. Now, if you look at Bitcoin's price today in Australian dollars, you know, the price of one whole Bitcoin is around about $180,000. So it's no small amount of change. Now, obviously, do you have to buy a whole Bitcoin? Absolutely not. You can buy half, 0.25, 10%. You can buy $100 worth of Bitcoin if you want to, because Bitcoin is highly fractionalized. There's 100 million units or derivatives or fractions of a Bitcoin known as Satoshis. And so you can buy, 100 Satoshis if you want to. And so people are realizing that whatever it is that they feel comfortable with allocating to Bitcoin, for the most part, they don't have access to that capital outside of their superannuation. And not only that, they aren't in a position to significantly tap into regular income or savings that they require to maintain their standard of living. I mean, the cost of living right now is already out of control. So for most people, for them to then go and beg, borrow or steal an extra, $1,000 a fortnight or a month or whatever it might be to allocate to Bitcoin in a meaningful way, for a lot of people, that's a very, very difficult proposition because they've already got a mortgage and, car payments and rates and school fees and groceries and insurance and pets and everything that goes into running a household and a life. Most people are only just keeping their head above water, and so the prospect of them meaningfully allocating to Bitcoin outside of their day-to-day life is very, very difficult for most people. And so they see superannuation as, like I said, a bit of a honeypot, a low-hanging fruit opportunity for them to really lean in to Bitcoin in a meaningful way and significantly allocate to it, because it's money that they're not going to be able to touch for the next 10, 12, 15 years anyway. And so it makes a lot of sense because it gives people the opportunity to allocate to the best performing asset of all time and have it not impact their current lifestyle. So that's what I'm seeing. Let me know in the comments below if this resonates with you. Are you thinking about rolling over your industry super fund into an SMSF so that you can acquire Bitcoin? Every single week I have people who book one-on-one coaching calls with me who have made that decision. Now they just need to know where to go to get it done. There are some providers that will require that you have a minimum balance of, say, 150 grand. For the longest time, it was always considered that you would need at least 200,000 in your superannuation to make it worthwhile due to the setup costs and the ongoing annual maintenance fees, tax returns, audits, those kinds of things. But these days, there are different providers that can really tailor their solutions, not just to those who have hundreds of thousands in super, but even for those who have quite a bit less than that. So important to keep that in mind, and also to understand that there is an enormous opportunity cost associated, I believe, with not doing this, because over here you have Bitcoin that is performing at 50 to 60% compound annual growth rate annually. And over here you have traditional superannuation that's performing at around 8%. And 8% is kind of what we have become accustomed to as investors as being the norm, as being the kind of the standard expectation that you would have around any kind of investment, be it real estate, be it stocks, shares, managed funds, superannuation. This has always been regarded as kind of relatively expected and fairly normal performance when it comes to our assets. But like I said, we are in a different environment now because inflation is far greater than 8%. So it means that you now have a hurdle rate that you have to keep up with your capital if you want to preserve and protect your wealth and your purchasing power. And this is why saving money in the bank is actually financial suicide now, because the currency is absolutely broken and is getting debased at least 10-12% a year. And so if you want to lose 10-12% of your purchasing power right off the bat per year, then just put your money in the bank and do nothing else. Add to that CPI, consumer price index inflation, another 3 or 4%, and then you're up around that 15-16% mark, and now you've really got a problem. For every $100,000, 5 years later, you're only going to be able to buy around $40,000 worth of stuff that you could have bought today. So this is a situation we find ourselves in, not through our own fault, not through your fault, but because the system is designed to extract value. The system is designed to deplete and erode the purchasing power of savers. The system is designed to only benefit a select few who own assets, scarce desirable assets, and they are the ones who benefit from inflation, because as you print more money, what happens is that money finds its way into these assets, in particular real estate. And this is why over the last 5 years we've seen in many areas, areas that are, highly desirable, close to the beach, close to the city, close to the harbour, etc., house prices have tripled in some areas. Not because the people who bought those pieces of real estate are geniuses, it's just because they happen to luck into a system that has basically sent the value of their real estate skyrocketing, not because of what they've done, but because of what the system has done. But for those people who haven't been fortunate enough to have those assets, unfortunately they've just been left behind. And so this situation is going to continue. It's generally considered that around the world we're going to see the money printer really start to ramp up over the next few months. Interest rates are going to start to come down. This is going to be like fuel on the fire when it comes to inflation. It's going to drive asset prices even higher and higher and higher. This is going to create an even greater wealth gap. It means that if you have your money stored in assets that are still trudging along at 8%, you're going to be getting further and further and further behind in terms of your wealth creation. And so you've got to ask yourself whether or not you want your capital stored in an asset that you know is going to do around 8% a year, or if you want to learn about Bitcoin and allocate to Bitcoin in a significant way, whatever that looks like for you, and to really think about what the next 5 to 10 years is going to look like. Because I believe that the opportunity cost of not being in Bitcoin is absolutely horrendous. It's horrendous because your savings are going to get absolutely decimated. And, you know, just as an example, I mean, if you were to have, say, $18,000, which is 0.1 Bitcoin today, because Bitcoin's running at $180,000 Australian right now. So if you were to acquire 10% of a Bitcoin today, in 15 years, and I know that's a fair ways off, but just to illustrate a point here, in 15 years, if Bitcoin continues to run at the lower end of what it's been running the past decade, let's call it 50%, in 15 years, that $18,000 is going to be worth about $7.8 million in 15 years. And so people who have 15 years until they can touch their superannuation, what are they saying to themselves? They're saying to themselves, well, I've got not much to lose here. I can easily put my hand on, 18 grand inside my super fund. Maybe I can do that 5 or 6 times inside my super fund. I mean, there are people in their super who are using, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 and throwing it all into Bitcoin that I know of. And so what I'm saying is that even at 0.1, 10% of a Bitcoin, 18 grand in 15 years, a Bitcoin runs at this lower end of its current performance at, say, 50% CAGR, compound annual growth rate, you're going to end up with $7.8 million. Now, by contrast, if you leave that $18,000 in super, performing at 8%, which you know is what it's going to do, it's not going to do anything significantly higher than that, you're going to have $57,000. And so herein lies the devastating opportunity cost associated with ignoring this and doing nothing. And so every single day, people come to me, they book one-on-one calls with me, they say, Zane, this makes a lot of sense. I want to have an allocation to Bitcoin inside my super fund, guide me in the right direction, put me in touch based on where I'm at and my situation, and that's what I do. And then we talk about securing it. We talk about self-custody. We talk about the importance of succession planning, things that are tied into securing your retirement savings in the most robust possible way. So, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to really be paying attention to this right now if you're not already doing so. If you haven't yet taken action on this and you haven't looked at your superannuation, I would encourage you to do that sooner rather than later. Get an annual report, have a look at how it's performing. Ask yourself if you're happy with that. Ask yourself what the opportunity cost is of having it keep going the way that it's going in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And then draw your own conclusions from that. Then ask yourself, what would it mean if you put a portion of that into Bitcoin? How would that look over the next 5, 10, 15 years? Get your hands on the reverse CAGR calculator. You'll see it in the show notes below. I put a link to it there. And just put some figures in there and see for yourself what it would mean if you put 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 into Bitcoin today, what that would look like when you get to retirement based on Bitcoin's current compound annual growth rate. Let's call it 50%. It's actually higher than that, but just put 50% in the CAGR calculator, and you're going to see for yourself what the future holds if you act upon this. So I'm going to leave it there today. I hope you got something from this. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. If I missed anything you'd like me to share in another video, I appreciate you being here. If you want to take action on this and set yourself up for a secure retirement, take control of your superannuation, set it up compliantly in the most robust possible way, then book a call with me and I will talk you through it. It'll be the most valuable 1 hour you'll ever spend, because you'll get yourself on the path to a really comfortable retirement, I believe, and one where you also have the opportunity to become self-sovereign. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. This is Zane signing out.